Today we're checking out this, along with this, and this. We will also talk about these and why they're relevant. We will also talk a little bit about this one and why it's relevant. And we're going to also talk about this and why it might be a little disappointing. Okay, we got a lot to cover, so let's go. As we take a look at the specs of the new Smart Generator 4000, this comes in at 4,000 starting watts, 3,200 running watts on gasoline, and 2,900 running watts on propane. Now, supposedly EcoFlow is coming out with a tri-fuel generator that will run on natural gas at 2,700 running watts, but that's not really scheduled to come out until at the very end of this year or the beginning of next year. Now, total output power of this generator is 26.6 amps, so while utilizing gasoline, it can provide up to 9 kilowatt hours with one full tank of fuel, or 24 kilowatt hours by utilizing a 20-pound propane tank. Now, this does come with a 1.6 gallon fuel cell, but if you are looking for extended run times, this is where that extended fuel pump comes into play. This actually fits inside of the fuel tank by just simply screwing in. Now, one thing with this fuel cell is that when you do take off the gas tank cover, this does have a small cord on it that also has a little safety on the bottom of it. When taking out the fuel strainer, there is a little bit of a notch. You'll take out the fuel strainer and then you're going to pull out the little safety retainer clip. This is actually a little bit difficult to get out and sometimes can be a little bit of a nuisance, but once you figure it out, it's not too bad. This is where you can then take that fuel extension fuel pump. This runs off of a DC input, which you will have to figure out, but I do have some videos on that I can leave in the description below. You'll simply screw on the fuel pump and then attach the line to the fuel tank, which you can run up to 6 gallons of fuel plus the additional 1.6 that's already inside of the generator. Now, as we look at the front of the generator, this does come with a brand new display, which is high visibility. It's very easy to read, and it does come with a couple new ports. So this does come with a 30 amp trailer TTR plugs, so you can utilize this in your RV like a normal inverter generator, since it does have 4,000 starting watts and 3,200. It does come with a 20 amp outlet as well to provide about 2,200 watts of power, and both of these do have their own reset plugs. As we take a look at the side of the generator, this is where you can also utilize just a standard pull cord to start it, and you will find your selector switch to go from either gasoline or to propane, along with your propane connection point. Now, when you do get this generator, it will come with several accessories. It will come with the generator adapter plug. This is needed to be able to connect into Delta Pro 3, original Delta Pro, but the other EcoFlow products that use an XT150 connection can then just directly input into that. Now, it also comes with your propane connection, which if you followed me before, you know that this is a pretty hard item to find, and it is from a new manufacturer. It's the same type of plug, but now another manufacturer is making it, so I will have to try to devise a way of trying to get these in case you want to figure out some different extensions, or if you want to extend your propane line. I found that now, though, this is just a connection that is actually removable. It looks like it's connected to a 3/8 flare. Probably easier transition than the other one if you wanted to just take off the connector and do a different style of cord that you can then extend much easier. It'll also come with the XT150 cord, along with a small toolkit and also a funnel, along with your instruction manual. Now, this generator does have an extension handle too. That way, if you want to move it around, it's much easier than having to carry like the old Smart Generator. Plus, this one does have wheels, so it does make it much easier for transporting. Now, on this side of the generator, you will have 3 access panels. The top panel is where you will find your battery. Now, it's simple to hook up, and there is a little access plate that if you did need to remove the battery, you simply remove this one screw, remove the plate, and then this is where you will find the battery. This is the same battery that was utilized in original Smart Generator, so at least they're staying consistent with some things, which hopefully finding replacement batteries gets easier, because the first generation was a little bit tough to find like a third party to be able to replace some of these, which they would want you to return the whole generator, which is not actually convenient. Now, one of the cool things about this new unit, though, that they did do a firmware update on, is that if you happen to have a dead battery or the battery is disconnected, XT150 connector can send power or utilize power from the device that it's plugged into. So if you happen to be plugged into original Delta Pro or Delta Pro 3 and the battery is dead on your Smart Generator, that means now it can provide power from Delta Pro and actually start up the generator generator is seen here, the battery is disconnected on the new Smart Generator, but it's still able to start through the XT150 connector from the original Delta Pro. This is actually a really cool feature that if you're not using your setup for a while, but you do have it on standby, as long as you are still getting power from original Delta Pro or whatever device you're plugged into, and it's being charged from, say, solar, it will be able to start up your Smart Generator, which is actually a really cool feature that I know some people have ran into problems with before. And down below your battery compartment is your XT150 connection, where you can then plug in your XT150 cable, which herein lies the problem again that we had with the last one. This is where I ended up finding a lot of complaints, is that the original XT150 cable is just slightly under 17 feet long. So depending on where you want to place Smart Generator and your power device that you are charging might run into a small problem. Now this is a pre-production unit, so it's possible they might make some longer cables, but we didn't see that with the original one. And it's good practice to have your generator approximately 20 feet from your home, depending on where you live and your situation, because dangerous carbon monoxide can end up under the eaves into your home, causing headaches, poisonous gases, and more. So that's just something that you'll have to decide depending on where you place your generator and how it's used. But always use good practices when using gasoline generators, which is one reason I do like propane. It is much less harmful, and not to mention a lot less dangerous when it comes to utilizing propane for your health, and it's actually better for the environment. And behind this panel is where you will find the new engine. Now the generators I did show you earlier, the Predator 3500, the Champion 4500, and original Smart Generator, all utilize an engine from Ratto Engineering. It's one of the most popular companies that makes generator engines. And being that it's one of the best engine manufacturers out there for generators today, it's actually nice to see that they utilized it in here. Another cool feature that they did add was a manual choke. That way if the battery is dead and you're trying to start this, you simply move the yellow lever back and forth to choke the unit. That way you can start it. Once the engine is started, you just move the yellow lever back and then you can place the cover back on. Now there are some interesting features about this unit. Because it is from Ratto technology, it's not uncommon, much like the original Smart Generator, it has a Yamaha MZ80 clone engine in it. It also utilizes a steel sleeve. Now it's not uncommon for Yamaha to sell their engines to companies. They've actually done this for decades in their small engine watercraft and more. Now what's special about this engine, it also utilizes a steel sleeve, so that will give you much longer run times versus an aluminum bore. Not to mention that this is a very similar looking engine to the Honda EU3000IS. That is also 196 cc's. This generator runs 3,800 RPM, much like the Honda engine does, and is also a steel sleeved engine. Now I'm not saying this is a Honda engine, but there are a lot of similarities when it comes to this and also the Honda engine. There are some things that are majorly different, like it is flipped 180 where the carburetor is on this side and your valve intake is on this side. But if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to clone engines, there's a lot of times companies will clone an older model, which the Honda was a GX200, and that's basically what this looks like. So I'm expecting much longer run times out of this versus some of the cheaper Chinese engines that have an aluminum bore. But because this is also in a much smaller package, like the Predator 3500 has a lot more room as far as the engine casing that it's in and everything, you will find that they did add all this plastic kind of cladding. This helps dampen engine noise to make it a little bit quieter, because this is so compact, there's not a lot of room for that sound waves to kind of vibrate and dampen before it exits, which does make this generator actually a little bit louder, which we will get into that in here in just a couple minutes. And one more thing they did add is, because there is no room up here for maintenance on your spark plug, there is now a nice spark plug hatch up here, so you can actually get your hand in there to do your service work as far as changing out your spark plugs. Now as we take a look at the back of the generator, this is where you will find an access panel, so you can service a spark arrestor. This is actually super simple. You can do this really easy by yourself. The instructions are also in the book, but this is something you should pay attention to because they can plug up depending, and if you really run a lot of low loads, that's when these can plug up much much quicker. So be sure to service these. Don't take them out, because if you are in the forest or something, that is just looking to start problems. It's better just to service it and keep it clean versus removing it and then having a faulty generator start a fire, which then you're liable for and can cause a lot of problems for you and not to mention other people. All right, now that we've gone over most of the information about this generator, let's go ahead and get it outside, do some sound testing and some load testing. This generator will also come in at just about 87 pounds with fuel and oil. Alright, if you've seen my videos before, you'll know this is where I've done a lot of sound testing. This is right about 23 feet, where a lot of companies will set a standard. Now we're going to start with a 400 watt load, just to kind of get an idea of what the generator sounds like. Now concrete is going to be the loudest, but this gives us a general idea at a low load. Now we're going to go to quarter load, which is about 800 watts for this generator and the standard that they set these at. And at a quarter load, about 62.5. Okay, this is an 1800 watt load while utilizing AC charging. And so this is a little bit louder than some other generators at this same kind of a test. And this would be about a 60% load. So now we're going to use the Predator 3500. This is one of the quietest generators out there, so it's kind of like cheating, but it is bigger, it is heavier, and it also has a larger engine, so it will burn a little bit more fuel, but we'll see what it sounds like. Okay, so same 400 watt load, and really quiet. Okay, the Predator is at 3000 running watts, so this would be a quarter load test at 23 feet. And as you can see, again, really quiet. And the 1800 watt running test. And at 1800 watts. Pretty quiet for the Predator. Now, if you do add bushes, rocks, or anything else besides concrete, it's going to help dampen the sound a lot. So now we're going to put this in performance mode. This is going to be about 3,450 RPM, about a 65% load. And I'm also at 25 feet roughly now, and look how much quieter it is. So when other people are doing sound tests, just remember where they're putting it. If it's on grass or concrete, that's going to make a big difference in what the numbers look like. Now, if you're wondering if you can DC charge and also use the AC outlets at the same time, you can. This is a nice feature depending on what you want to do. But I am running a charging load on my Delta Pro Ultra of about 600 watts, while I'm also charging up a Delta Pro 3 at 1500 watts. I also did max load testing at 3200 watts, which this is not really where you want your generator to live at, but it was able to do it and hold the load fine. Now, one thing I did notice while during AC charging of 1800 watts, I was running an AC load charging up Delta Pro Ultra. You can see the 1800 watt load, and if you look at the RPMs, about 3350, maybe 3400 RPM. Now, while running the same 1800 watt load while charging Delta Pro 3, but on a DC load, as you can see here, 1800 watts with the DC charging to Delta Pro 3, but now if we look at our RPM, we're pretty much maxed out. So I thought this was interesting that being DC is more efficient for charging, but I am also spinning about 350 to 400 RPM more. Okay, so I'm going to utilize my RV to show you a couple things. Now we are going to keep track of RPM again, and the temperature is about 90 degrees because heat does affect performance when it comes to any generator. Now I am directly plugged into my RV. This is going into the generator inlet box, which then goes into the transfer switch. Now I have been using my power kit, which I do love this, but I can't use new smart generator yet because there's no firmware update, which should come soon, but I can use my AC in if I want. But I would like to have some kind of an adapter, that way I wouldn't have to unplug one of my batteries. Now I do have this plugged into my onboard tanks, which this allows two 40-pound tanks, so it gives me plenty of runtime. And this is a kit that I basically put together and built from the last smart generator. It's just a quick connect, which allows me to run my barbecue or my fire pit up front if I want to do that. Now this is the same connector from the original smart generator, but just from a different manufacturer. Now whenever you are messing with propane, it's a good idea to check things, especially with this pin. It's only 20 bucks. It works real good, and for an RVer, it's just something to have. As you can see, boom, there's a leak right there, which honestly I did this just for demonstration, but I've used this pin so many times for neighbors or other campers, and even finding a leak in one of my regulators on board of my RV. But it just simply resets. It can detect all kinds of gases, swamp gas, natural gas, and more, and I just leave it in my little toolbox here. Okay, some of the cool features of the smart generator is being able to start it with your phone, which is pretty cool. Now I didn't purge that line after messing with it, so it started good anyway. Okay, so let me show you a couple features you can do. Now inside the app, you can set up your propane levels. Now I haven't done this because my tanks are about a third full on each side roughly. But if you go in, you can set the weight of your propane tank, and then this will give you your full level. So I put mine just at 25 for demonstration, and as we go back, you can see it's now 99% full. And if we put this in performance mode, you can see that the runtime drops from 225 hours to 74 hours. So it kind of gives you just a good estimate, or at least something anyway besides nothing. But we're going to go ahead and do some loads. Now right now this is in performance mode. And so you can see right there, we've got about 6 hours on it at the moment. And I'll show you the RPM. So in performance mode, this is when it's up in the upper RPMs at 3450. I'm going to go ahead and set this back into Eco. Just press the button. And now this is the lowest that the generator is going to run at, or at least idle. This is going to be your super low loads, right about 2800 RPM. Okay, we're going to go into my trailer here. Now the generator is in performance mode. And just to take a quick look at the pure sine wave, you can see, look at that, nice and uniform, nice and clean. Go ahead and turn on the AC. This is a 15K AC unit. I do have a soft start, and this is about a minute later after it's kicked on and up and running. You can see our watts on the left side, almost 1800, which it's still cool out. I've seen it draw as much as 1850 just on my large AC unit. Wave looks clean, so on to the next one. Now this is a 13.5K AC unit with a soft start as well. So give this a couple seconds, put it on fan, and then we turn it on to AC cool. And we should see this kick up all the way in just a second. It takes about 10 or 15 seconds. And boom, there it goes, 2800 watts roughly. We'll go take a look at that sine wave again. Now as we come over here, look at that. Still nice and uniform. Nice and clean, and that's basically what we're looking for out of an inverter generator, a nice clean sine wave that's uniform. Now being that this is running 2900, almost 3000 watts on a hot day, which right now it's only 90 degrees, when it gets hotter out, it's going to be harder to run this load. So this is considered maxed out and not where you want your generator to live. If you're trying to run two ACs, you need a larger generator that has more running watts, at least 3,500 to 4,000. So that's the problem with some people trying to run two ACs. They just don't have enough power, and so they need a larger generator. All right, some final thoughts. So if you were wondering if you can convert this to natural gas, yes and no. If you know what you're doing, sure, you can do it. If you don't know what you're doing, leave it alone, because you will void the warranty, and then that's all on you. So it's best to wait for the new unit if that one actually does come out. Now, as far as the XT150 cable, I would have loved to seen something longer. We have been asking for a longer cable for over a year, and we still haven't seen it. 25-foot minimum would have been ideal versus just a little over 16 feet. This would give you a lot more options on where you place your generator and where your power station is going to be. Now, when it comes to the power kit, the update will be around soon, so we'll work with that. We just have to wait for the update. And when it comes to the noise on this generator, it's not as bad as others out there, but it's also not as quiet as a Honda. And that's the thing, is that everybody compares it to Honda, but Honda also has limitations because they can only put out so much power. They don't have any dual fuel. They also don't have any automatic start features. So it just depends on really what you're looking for. But with the motor choice that they went with, I'm expecting to see long hours out of this, and because it does have a steel sleeve, that is typically when we see generators get into the 3, 4, 5,000, 7,000 hour mark, depending on how you treat it. Now, when it comes to generators, this is definitely the smartest thing on the market. It can automatically start and stop depending on how you have it set up in the app. You can start it and stop it from your phone and more, or you can do the standard pull start or push the button and start it. It's actually a pretty cool unit. And with the extended run fuel tank, that's another option for you to have extended run times, or if you just want to run propane. Now, EcoFlow is having lots of sales right now, at least at the time of this video, and I do have a higher percentage discount than some other people out there, so be sure to check that out in the links down below. I hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions, look for this link down below. Where does this go?